Well, I'm Mike Elsner, and I'm a guitar player. I've been based out of Los Angeles for the last 8 years, and just recently came back to Nashville after a long hiatus.
Cool.
Yeah.
What
So
what did you do in LA as a guitar player?
uh, the majority of the stuff I did was all TV based.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I did some touring with some artists, but most of it was just television. I
Hmm.
started on a couple TV shows, uh, which was daytime soap operas, The Young and the Restless and The Bold and the Beautiful, and those were my first gigs
Hmm.
there. And that was a big learning experience because I went from, you know, living in Nashville for 5 years prior to that and working on records and touring as well. But so to go from like record world into TV world was
Totally different.
it was a
Yeah.
completely a different take on playing and writing parts,
Hmm.
you know. And probably the most important thing was also the speed, of what you had to get done quickly. You know,
Hmm.
whereas with a record you can take some time and work out your parts and get your sounds right and stuff like that. But with the TV stuff, you go in and you have a 3 hour session and you have to get maybe 12 cues done,
Wow.
and you have to get it done in 3 hours. You know,
Right.
because they're under such a tight time crunch
Hmm.
to write the music, record the music, and then spot it to the film or the show, and then make sure that the show is ready to go by the following week. So you really only have from the time that they uh, start writing to recording maybe like 3 or 4 days to
Hmm.
do all the music
Wow.
in a show. So
Well,
it
tell
goes
tell
by
us
real
about this
fast.
rig right here. What TV show did you use this on?
This rig, I actually put together. It's a little small pedal board, but I put this together for a show on the USA Network that I played guitar on, called Fairly Legal,
Hmm.
and they just got picked up for its second season.
Yeah.
So hopefully, be starting that in I think January. But so this was the rig I used last year for Fairly Legal, and I used it for a couple other shows that the composer did as well during that time. And the composer's name is Matteo Messina.
Hmm.
And so this was Fairly Legal, and off the top of my head, there was a Alyssa Milano movie called Sundays at Tiffany's,
Hmm.
which was actually a really good movie, and the music in it was really good. Um,
You used it on that too.
use it on that. I used it a little bit on a show last season on NBC, I think called Perfect Couples.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, show us
but
some of the
yeah,
sounds that you
okay.
used for those sessions.
Well, the pedal board as a whole is made up of all visual sound pedals, except for the Vox, wah, and the tuner pedal. So once they create a wah and a tuner, it will be fully visual sound.
See what I can do.
But starting here just with a phaser, it's just the garage tone oil can phaser. And I always have this set to just a real slow speed with a small depth because we're not going for any kind of crazy sounds here. And the phaser and the tremolo pedal, I generally combine to create like these like sonic scapes. Like for example, if I turn these on and kick in a little delay and give it boost the time, boost the repeats. This is really nice for like swells that would sit underneath like a bed of music in a
Hmm.
in a in a part of a song or in a part of a scene. So you have to imagine like keyboards and other stuff going. But if you think of like the scene, it might be that moment where the character is in late at night in the office trying to figure out solve the problem and
Right.
solve the thing. So you always have kind of like maybe some droning drum beat and just some stuff like that. And so this is more like a sonic scape, a sonic scape
Yeah,
type
go
of
ahead and play
sound.
with it a little bit.
So the phaser is really nice for that because it gives it like a bit of a synthy kind of sound. And then the tremolo just kind of gives it that pulse. And what's nice about the tremolo here is that you can create a lot of different vibes with this tremolo, right? By turning the wave knob up so you get more of a square wave, and the depth so you get more of like a chopping kind of a sound. You can get, turn the speed up a little bit to match the tone. And again, you gotta think of this. This is just for a sonic scape underneath, a scene. You know. So that's kind of what I use these a lot for. Basically to complement, the keyboard and whatever other synth stuff is happening there. So, and the phaser is just a great sounding phaser pedal. But that's what I basically used it for on this board. I got probably the most use out of the delay pedal, out of the axle grease, because it's a you can do a lot with this delay. You can do everything from little slapback sounding stuff. Let me actually turn it on. Turn down the repeats a little bit. Okay, so this is like a very typical kind of sound that we would do in a lot of scenes, like if the character's like walking down the street and has to walk into some building, and it's kind of a fun little moment. You might have like something like that, and that would be that kind of a sound. But the slapback delay was used a lot, and that's just part of the particular composer's sound. He uses slapback on a ton of stuff. So the garage tone gets a lot of, or the axle grease gets a lot of use for that. But the cool thing about it is, you can turn up the delay time and just get really nice normal delays. So in essence, it's a real versatile pedal, and it's just real simple to use. You don't have to go into a lot of some of the newer delay pedals that are digital delays have so many different settings, and some of them have menus and stuff like that. But this is just real simple and real fast. And ultimately, that was the whole point of this board, was just to have everything really quick and accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just go in and quickly change it, and not have to go through menus and how did that work. Well, I'll give you an example of like the delay here, and then I'll show you how the open road pedal can totally change the sound of like the same kind of piece. So like just change the repeat a little bit so I can lock in there. So that might be a very typical kind of sound you'd use just for like a little quick scene,
Right.
But then you're creating themes throughout the show. So you kick in the open road, take off the delay, maybe turn up the drive just a touch, right? The same kind of line now has a whole different feel. Now it might have, drums going and a whole band kind of playing and some B3 and stuff like that. But you've totally changed the whole dynamic of that same riff.
Much more aggressive.
Much more aggressive, but real quick. So let's talk about the open road, and specifically why this pedal made it to the board. This is probably one of my 3 desert island pedals or overdrives. The open road and the Route 66 would be 2 of them, because I really like the Route 66 as well. But the open road is much different than the Route 66. What I like about the open road is that it sounds like an amp. We're playing through a clean amp right now. Right. If you turn it on and you have the drive really low, it sounds like the amp is just, kind of barely breaking up, but it's, you don't really have distortion, but you definitely have some extra, like, girth to it. You know what I mean? But then as you turn the drive up, it just gets considerably more, organically overdriven. Not that fuzzy distortion that a lot of distortion or overdrive pedals get. And then when you just crank it up all the way, or at this point it's about like 75% up. It's got some meat and potatoes to it. But for this particular show, there were a couple instances where we really crank it up, and there'd be some like little guitar melody, or maybe some slide part or an EBO thing that had a lot of effects on it. But for the most part, the sound of this was fairly clean, or like a little bit of overdrive, and so the open road was perfect for that. It's just getting back to that riff I played. It's just like it sounds big and meaty, but it's not that fuzzy kind of sound, which can typically get in the way. So the open road is just a great sounding pedal for this particular show and for a lot of the TV stuff that I've done in the last probably year and a half. So that's, yeah, and it sounds great. Again, same thing, you can throw the phaser on it, kick in the delay, and now you have some really nice sounds like that. But it's like when you kick in the overdrive, you have this little extra bit of like compression, I guess, that just kind of keeps the sound going. And then the last pedal here is the chorus, and one of the things that I really like about this liquid chorus in particular is if you turn the depth knob up, okay, you set your width and delay to about like this, right, that kind of setting, and you get your speed up to maybe like 60 or 70%. You have this mock Leslie sound, So another nice sound that can complement a synth part or even a B3 part. A little cue can have something like that, as simple as just that kind of a sound. There might be like a little piano line, something, and then that's the end of the cue. So again, just a real simple setup, but you're able to access these sounds really quickly. The chorus, aside from that, aside from the Leslie sound, you turn the speed back, bring the depth back. Turn that back a little bit too. You just have a nice chorus sound. So it's I'd like to say subtle, but it's not very subtle. But it's pleasant, very nice sound. So that's kind of how I used this board for a couple of those shows. Just real quick and easily accessible, and no menus and no crazy parameters.
No programming required.
No programming required.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Cool.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate it as well.